of the Procedure and Rules Committee on the review of the standing orders of the Senate laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 22nd May 2024, and that pursuant to the provisions of Article 2 of Article 124, 1 of the Constitution and Standing Orders 270 and 272, 1, resolved to amend its standing orders as contained in Annex 1 of the report, subject to deletion of the words "not in a coalition with another party," appearing in the proposed amendment to Standing Order Number 2 on page 33 of the report. And second, orders that the amendments to the standing orders as contained in Annex 1 to the report come into effect on the 25th of June 2024. Will as many as of this opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order. Now, honorable senators, before I call the next order, I will allow Senator Gloria Oroba to make her statement pursuant to Standing Order 52.1, today being the World Menstrual Hygiene Day. Senator Oroba, you may proceed.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to make a general statement on this day of International Menstrual Hygiene Day, May 28th. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52.1 to make a statement on a matter of general topical concern, namely the commemoration of World Menstrual Hygiene Day, observed annually on the 28th of May. Mr. Speaker, today is World Menstrual Hygiene Day, and this year's theme is Together for a Period-Friendly World. The global platform of raising awareness about the challenges of women and girls facing regarding menstrual hygiene and advocating for the necessary changes to ensure their dignity, health, and well-being are well catered for. Mr. Speaker, in Kenya, many girls face significant barriers in managing their menstrual health. Lack of access to affordable sanitary products, inadequate sanitation facilities in schools, and pervasive cultural taboos lead to high rates of absenteeism in schools, school dropouts, and compromised dignity. According to recent studies, nearly 1 in 10 African girls miss school during menstruation, with some dropping out entirely due to the challenges they face. Mr. Speaker, on this Menstrual Hygiene Day 2024, we celebrate the strides made by the Kenyan government in ensuring that every girl in Kenya has access to menstrual hygiene products. The State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action received 876,548,482 shillings in the supplementary estimates only in the supplementary estimates towards the supply of sanitary towels to schoolgirls in all public primary and junior secondary schools in Kenya in this financial year 2023-2024. Mr. Speaker, it should be noted that that budget has gone up from 265 million after the Kenya Kwanza government put in the intervention to ensure that we are ending period poverty. Mr. Speaker, the procurement process is complete with contracts signed. It is also clear to the suppliers that the delivery points will be at the sub-county level, and each supplier, upon pre-inspection exercise and clearance, is expected to share the distribution schedule for seamless delivery to the counties up to the sub-county level. So far, 27 counties have been supplied with sanitary towels, while the remaining 20 are either awaiting the scheduled delivery dates or ongoing pre-inspection or communication has been done by the supplier for the late delivery. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to emphasize that these sanitary towels are being distributed as we speak by our county women reps, Mr. Speaker, and I want to applaud the efforts of our Cabinet Secretary for Gender, Madam Aisha Jumwa, who has made sure that she has seen this exercise to fruition, Mr. Speaker. There have been a lot of queries in terms of the checks and balances and accountability of the same, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the same is being raised even in the Senate in terms of ensuring that the over 800 million Kenya shillings was spent and the beneficiaries are indeed the vulnerable girls and women in the society, Mr. Speaker. I want to congratulate the Kenya Kwanza government, Mr. Speaker, on this particular initiative and being on the forefront heading the menstrual hygiene campaign, Mr. Speaker, to end period poverty and end period shaming. On this day, I would like to applaud each and every champion that is out there, including our male senators and male champions, Mr. Speaker, who have been out there ensuring that we end the stigma. Mr. Speaker, to you and to all the members of the House, I say Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day 2024. Thank you.
Before you call the next order, allow me to make this communication, Honorable Senators. As you may recall, at the sitting of the Senate held on Tuesday, 14th of May, 2024, the Senator for Nandi County, Senator Samson Cherankei, made utterances while contributing to a petition to the Senate by Mr. Japheth Makoha, seeking an amendment to Section 32(3) of the County Governments Act. The Senator for Siaya County, Senator Dr. Oburu Oginga, MP, rose on a point of order pursuant to Standing Order 105(1), seeking the intervention of the Speaker to require the Senator for Nandi to substantiate the utterances. The statement that Senator Dr. Oburu Oginga, MP, requires substantiation from Senator Samson Cherankei, MP, was as follows. For example, we have seen governors frustrate the deputy governors. For example, we have seen that the deputy governor for Siaya County cannot access his office. He does not have a vehicle, fuel, or any resources allocated. In the opinion of Senator Dr. Oburu Oginga, MP, the statement made by Senator Samson Cherankei, MP, was a wild allegation that needed to be substantiated. I then directed Senator Samson Cherankei, MP, to substantiate the above allegations as required pursuant to Standing Order 105(1). In line with Standing Order 105(2), Senator Samson Cherankei, MP, requested to table the documents in support of the statement at the next sitting. At the sitting of the Senate held on Wednesday, 15th of May, 2024, I invited Senator Samson Cherankei, MP, to forthwith substantiate the claims as raised in the point of order by Senator Dr. Oburu Oginga, MP. Thereupon, Senator Cherankei, MP, tabled a letter dated the 6th of May, 2024, from the Deputy Governor for Siaya County, Honorable Dr. William Oduol, addressed to the Speaker of the Senate. In the letter, the Deputy Governor for Siaya County sought the intervention of the Senate concerning alleged refusal by the Governor to accept the Deputy Governor back to the county, despite the Senate's verdict on his proposed removal by impeachment. Now, Honorable Senators, as you may recall, in my communication to the Senate made on the 1st and the 16th of November 2023, I indicated that any document, evidence tabled by a senator as evidence for substantiation of any allegations made under Standing Order 105 must pass a certain threshold. I highlighted the parameters for undertaking an assessment of evidence table to include: 1, is the evidence table from a source which by parliamentary practice is official and admissible? And 2, if the answer to A is in the affirmative, does the evidence relate to and verify the claim or claims that are made and for which substantiation was required? The requirement by the Speaker in this matter was to review the document tabled by Senator MATIANG'I MP, establish the connection with the utterances made by the Senator, and to finally make a determination on whether the evidence was admissible or not. Now, Honorable Senators, a reading of the contents of the letter by the Deputy Governor at pages 3 and 4 state that he has been excluded from the Siaya County Executive Committee meetings. His utility car and security officers have been withdrawn. Fuel provision for his official car had been stopped, and that attempt to resolve the matter with the relevant authorities within the county government proved futile. That being the case, and having examined the contents of the letter by the Deputy Governor and tabled by Senator MATIANG'I MP, I make a determination that the contents thereof have met the established threshold. Consequently, the letter tabled is admissible as evidence in the Senate and serves to fully substantiate the claims made by the Senator. I thank you. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 45-2, I seek to rearrange today's order paper. We will proceed to order number 21 before resuming the normal flow as contained in today's order paper.
Order number 21, the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 40 of 2023, second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I only need few minutes, Mr. Speaker, for my amendment bill. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to provision of Standing Order 146(1) of the Senate Standing Orders, orders that the Public Finance Amendment Bill to be now read. Second time. Mr. Speaker, the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations has prepared amendments to the bill which incorporates the views of the public. Mr. Speaker, is it the one?
Proceed, Senator. Proceed to move.
So, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move Public Finance Bill. Public Finance Bill on the amendment of Bill 2023, Senate Bills number 34 of 2023. Mr. Speaker, according to the Standing Order 145(5) of the Senate, the committee invited interested members of the public and stakeholders to submit their proposal on the bill. Mr. Speaker, the principal object of this bill is to amend the Public Finance Management Act, number 18 of 2012 to establish a collaborative framework for collection of revenues by the county governments and the National Treasury. This will boost revenue collection by the county governments and ensure counties realize their revenue targets. Mr. Speaker, this bill speaks to the collection of the county government's revenue. At least two, the county governments to establish and have their own source revenue. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I shall proceed to highlight the various provincials in this bill. Clause 2 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, the proposed new section requires the county treasury, in consultation with the National Treasury, to put in place a county revenue collection system. It requires that such a system that respects the distinctiveness of the two levels of government be secure, effective, efficient, and transparent. Mr. Speaker, Clause 3 of the bill seeks to amend the Public Finance Management Act by inserting new section 160A, 160B, and 160C. The proposed new section 160A intends to provide framework for collaboration between the county governments and the National Treasury as regards to the collection of revenue by counties. Mr. Speaker, the proposed new section 160B, on the other hand, provides for reporting on the status of revenue collection at the county. It requires county treasury to report to the county assembly and submit copies of the reports to the Senate, the National Treasury, and the Commission of Revenue Allocation on the status of the county revenue collection and performance. Mr. Speaker, the proposed new section 160C provides for the transfer of functions between the levels of the government and also how such functions shall be funded. It requires county assemblies to appropriate monies as may be required for the transferred functions. That amount shall not be less than the amount appropriated by the county assembly in the preceding financial year. Such monies shall be audited by Auditor General, who shall prepare a special audit report on the performance of the entity to which a county government functions has been transferred to. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move. And I call upon I call upon Senator Faki to support, since he's in the, since he's in the Finance Committee.
Senator Mohammed Faki.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to second the bill by Senator Hamida. Honorable Speaker, the bill is very important because it provides a further framework for our county governments in terms of revenue collection in their respective jurisdictions. Honorable Speaker, on-source revenue has been a thorny issue in our counties. Most counties overstate their on-source revenue, thereby developing pending bills at the end of the financial year because the amounts collected are not enough to cater for the projects that they had planned for in the course of the financial year. Honorable Speaker, the other aspect of the matter is that there are no systems in most of the county governments. There are no foolproof management systems that are able to collect revenue, and you are able to ascertain at any given point how much has been collected by the respective county governments. These systems that they have, Honorable Speaker, normally charge on a percentage basis, and in some instances, the amount that goes to the owner of the system is much more than what goes into the coffers of our county governments. And then at the end of the day, we still have projects that have not been completed because of lack of finances. Honorable Speaker, the issue also of the on-source revenue is the next frontier in which county governments should be encouraged to invest in so that they are able to meet the shortfalls that they expect from the equitable share. Honorable Speaker, yesterday we concluded the mediation on the Division of Revenue bill. And the negotiations were so intense that we ended up settling for 400.1 billion shillings for the financial year 2024-2025. Although our expectation was 415.5 billion, so that counties can be able to meet the non-discretionary budgeted expenses that have come as a result of the passing of the several bills by Parliament. So, Honorable Speaker, counties should be encouraged to invest and maintain stronger supervision in terms of the on-source revenue, because that's the next frontier where they are likely to get money to develop their respective counties. Honorable Speaker, the second aspect of the amendment is with regard to the reporting to the county assemblies. Honorable Speaker, most of the assemblies are in the dark as to how much is being collected. Yeah, the other day we had a county assembly of Machakos, which appeared before the Senate Finance Committee on issues to do with enhancement of their ceilings in terms of recurrent expenditure. Honorable Speaker, the county government of Machakos had put a budget of 4 billion for the on-source revenue. And by December last year, they had only collected 1 billion for the financial year 2023-2024. So you can see the disparities, Honorable Speaker, of the projections and in reality what they are raising in terms of the on-source revenue by this county. The actual reporting to the county governments and the Senate will provide the oversight committees, Honorable Speaker, with the tools for which they can be able to monitor and take corrective measures as the year progresses in terms of this amendment. Honorable Speaker, I support this amendment, and I second the amendment to the PFM Act as proposed by Senator Hamida. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senators, I now propose the question that the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 40 of 2023, be now read a second time. Honorable members, I will now call upon those members who've requested to speak to this bill, and I'll start with Senator Samson Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate Senator Hamida Kibwana, especially elect. I think she has been doing tremendous work, especially in legislative business. I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, these are issues we have been grappling as the Senate Public Accounts Committee. As the Vice Chairperson of Senate Public Committee, one of the audit queries that we have always considered has been on the issue of on-source revenue and also the running of the county treasury, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, the amendment of Public Finance Management Act is to make sure and put in place necessary mechanisms for accountability purposes and to ensure revenue collection, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, normally in our brief as members of the public accounts and Senate, we normally ask revenue potential of each and every county. Mr. Speaker, you find there is no county, and I want to dare, because I've sat in the public house, that has ever met revenue system. I remember today there was a county that we were meeting, the neighboring county of Laikipia, and they had missed their own revenue target by over 411 million, apart from the revenue they had set, which is not realistic. But when you look at, for example, Nandi, according to CRA, we have a potential target of 630 million. But Nandi has never gone beyond 300 to 400 million. So it means most of the counties are missing their own source revenue target by a half of what they target, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, borrowing the best practices from the National Treasury. And you know, by the way, this in any way does not undermine devolution. I know the people who imagine and think that when the Senator Amida proposes that they should, in consultation with National Treasury, many people want to imagine that we are undermining devolution. We are not. We are complementing, because they are mutual and distinct, and complementarity, borrowing what we call best practices, Mr. Speaker. And I know this consultation word was famous during Grand Coalition government, and I think it had an extent of even the Constitution being amended then, during the Grand Coalition arrangement between former President Mwai Kibaki and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. So what we are saying is consultation. It does not mean that you are loading over another entity, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, and then there is a challenge in revenue collection. You find, like, for example, Nandi County, you find they produce a number of triplicate receipts. But the receipt they surrender to the county treasury is only one receipt. So where is the other two receipts? That is how they are stealing money, Mr. Speaker. You find the serial numbers of receipts they issue to border sticker. For example, in Nandi, border pay beyond 300 shillings per sticker. Mr. Speaker, the ones of single permit, the one on land rates, rents, fees, Mr. Speaker, daily receipts of parking receipts, Mr. Speaker. It always becomes a challenge, because sometimes our counties or some crooked county government officials take advantage and steal. Is the issue different receipts, same receipts, but different serial number? I remember in some occasion, Mr. Speaker, there was a time every evening when Nandi used to bank their money at Kenya Commercial Bank in Kapsabet, they used to lose over 96,000 every evening. So there is a lot of leakages. There is a lot of, and you know, they have set up cess points. Mr. Speaker, I don't understand why would I pay, Mr. Speaker, cess from Nairobi when I'm taking stones here, building stones from Thika. I pay, when I enter to Nairobi, I pay cess. As I enter to Nakuru, I pay cess. As I enter to Wazingishu, I pay cess. As I enter to Nandi, I pay cess. Mr. Speaker, I think we are encouraging double taxation by counties. Why don't I pay cess from the origin of the product or at the end of the delivery project? Because you are overcharging. Because you will end up paying cess points. But this money, Mr. Speaker, that counties collect do not have value, Mr. Speaker. We have never seen value. For example, when you go to Kapsabet County market, and I know Senator Otsosi knows this, the county askaris and county revenue officers will enforce with fire and fury. But when you go to Kapsabet town market, you will get there is no toilets, there is no clean water, there is no electricity, no one is collecting that at our Mama Mboga who are at Kapsabet town market. But when it comes to collecting receipts, you will see governors sending their askaris, sending their revenue officers, Mr. Speaker, and that money at the end of the day ends to the county treasury. Mr. Speaker, and that is, there is no value. You go to Kaptumo, you go to Mosoriat, you go to Kabiet, you go to Maraba, you go to Kobuja. Women are selling, even in Mosoriat, where I come from, women are selling along the road in an open market. When it rains, they can't sell. When it is dust, they can't sell. But counties will be quick to go and collect the revenue. You go to Chepteri Center, Mr. Speaker, and other centers across Nandi, county will go for motorbike stickers. For example, in Chemase, they don't have what we call a shed, border shed, but the county of Nandi will go ahead and collect stickers or demand that, for example, the motorbike space, for example, in Soba, for example, Rikibokat, Mr. Speaker, Center, or somewhere in Mombwa, Mr. Speaker, or Chipterwa. Yet there is no, the shed that has been given the standard that demands that because, Mr. Speaker, the former President Mwai Kibaki used to tell us, kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. And that has been the essence that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether the mover noted Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether the mover noted that we did pass a law, Facilities Improvement Act 2023, where we allowed, through cost sharing aspect, if you are collecting money in Kapsabet County Referral Hospital or any other hospital, or even here in Bagadi Hospital, we have passed an act to allow you to spend money at source for ambulance services, for support services, which I think this act, I don't know, when the committee of the whole, we should be able to look at it, because there is a law that allows counties to spend at source. And more specifically, Mr. Speaker, on the aspect of cost sharing in our hospitals, Mr. Speaker, so that that one can be captured. The reason, the wisdom of passing Facilities Improvement Act to spend at source, because, for example, you go to an hospital like Kapsabet or Mosoriat or Chepterwai, Mr. Speaker, or Kabiyet, you take somebody at night, Mr. Speaker, and you want to take your person to MTRH, a sick person, you are told there is no fuel. And our people in Nandi end up paying 1,000 to 2,000 shillings so that they can get an ambulance. The issue of drugs is not in the hospital, for example, and that is why when you go to Kapsabet, it is not a good business. But you find there are so many chemists. The reason there are many chemists in Kapsabet town is because there are no drugs in Kapsabet County Referral Hospital. If there were no drugs, it would have been easier, Mr. Speaker. So I think at the essence of this transparency that we are talking about is very critical, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, even the other day, Mr. Speaker, and this has been reported in Kapsabet police station, there was a lady who within the hospital of Kapsabet County Referral Hospital, there was an attempt rep within the hospital of Kapsabet Referral Hospital, Mr. Speaker. And I know Senator Amida, being a member of health committee, is aware that there is OB, where even patients are not safe. And you saw what happened in Garissa, because it sits in the health committee, Mr. Speaker. So you can see hospitals must be the place where our patients feel safe. Because if women can be sexually molested, allegations that were in Garissa County Referral Hospital, that we are seeing in many hospitals, including Kapsabet County Referral Hospital. And the sad reality, Mr. Speaker, is you find the management committee of County Referral Hospital go and sit and tell the complainant that drop the charges so that you don't taint the image of the hospital. I think that's an abuse to the dignity of women, Mr. Speaker, across the country. And therefore, when we talk about this Facilities Improvement Act, it is important that Senator Amida note this so that as you proceed with your amendment, Mr. Speaker. Finally, on the issue, because so that I finish with the other limp, is, Mr. Speaker, the county revenue system. Mr. Speaker, we used to have people like Jambo Pay, Safaricom. You know, we were asking, Mr. Speaker, you remember during, and I know you have been practicing in this town, when NMS, no, Mr. Speaker, Speaker has been a senior practitioner in this Nairobi city. Why is the retired Jai referring that you have been practicing in Eldoret? I think he needs some information. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, what I wanted to say, in the last session, during NMS, you are aware that the revenue collection was partnership with KRA. There are organizations like Jampo Pay. Jampo Pay, there was Safaricom. No one is telling us. Counties are hiring revenue systems. And I know the chairperson of Special Public Investment Committee will tell us later in his contribution. No one knows how much is being paid through agency fee. If Safaricom is collecting, if Jambo Pay is collecting, Mr. Speaker, if KRA is collecting, we need transparency and we need value for money, Mr. Speaker. Because we were seeing even in a county, I don't know which county was it Kuala or Kilifi, where the agency fee was more than half of what they are collecting. And I don't think it is fair, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the county treasury, even as we do the system, it must be simple, transparent, and verifiable. And Mr. Speaker, the best practice we can borrow is from KRA. I know to some of us, KRA is not a good name to listen to, but it is the one that collects our revenue on behalf of all of us. And therefore, we should start, and I want to say, even as we outsource the system, we must request counties to do automatic revenue system. Even in your county, Bomet County, for example, Mr. Speaker, must be told if they are using automated revenue system and how much agency fee are you paying, Mr. Speaker. And that is why most counties are going for the, I think they are using a principle that you shoot at the sun and land on the moon. For example, Nandi, according to CRA, I'm trying to recall the Bomet revenue potential. For example, Nandi, CRA revenue potential that we should collect per year is 630 million. But normally we are not going beyond 300 million. It means there is a lot of leakages, there is a lot of corruption, there is a lot of ineffectiveness. Mr. Speaker, sometimes you are told the systems are down when you want to pay for any of these source revenue, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this finally, in number 3 point, Mr. Speaker, is the county secretary shall submit copies of the quarterly statement and report to the Senate and the National Treasury. I think this will allow transparency and accountability so that we know when Jambo Pay, for example, is collecting for Meru County, how much are they collecting and how much agency fees are they taking? If, for example, Safaricom is collecting on behalf of Makueni County, how much are they charging, how much are they raising, and how much is the agency fee, and what is the contractual obligation? That is what we really want to see. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, when you submit these reports to county assemblies, because county assemblies are the primary oversight, Mr. Speaker. They are supposed to do the primary oversight. They are supposed to be part of the oversight to ensure the collection revenue system is up to par, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I agree with this statement that we must submit to the Senate and National Assembly, not National Treasury, and to the Senate and the National Treasury, Mr. Speaker, and also to county assembly. I know some people, when they listen to National Treasury, will say that we are undermining the devolution. We are just borrowing best practices. But I don't see the need, on another flip side, Senator Amida, as you consult, I know the minority leader was airborne the other week, maybe he's telling you the fairy stories of the sojourn and the journey across the wall. But Mr. Speaker, I would be requesting that, why should you submit to National Treasury? We just submit to County Assembly and the Senate. Because if we submit, those are enough so that we don't see that national government is overreaching the functions of devolution, Mr. Speaker. And finally, the county assemblies, we must build the capacity of county assembly. Mr. Speaker, my only concern, and you know I'm the biggest supporter of MCS, even as we give these powers to members of county assembly, can they stop being rubber stamp of governors? Because sometimes we give them powers, you go to a function, an MCS stands and becomes a public relations officer of a governor. I saw that one in Vihiga County. Our MCA who is supposed to be doing oversight is the one explaining governor's project more than the governor, Mr. Speaker. And I always get surprised. I was in that county and I was like, what is happening? MCAs are supposed to do the oversight. We are pushing for Ward Development Fund, Mr. Speaker, for MCAs, which this House and the President and all of us have agreed. They should get Ward Development Fund. Mr. Speaker, we are amending the PMF Act to give them financial autonomy so that they don't wait for CCM Finance to give them resources. We are supporting financial autonomy of MCAs. Number 3, we are pushing SRC, Mr. Speaker, to review the remuneration and salaries of MCAs so that they are not reduced to overclarified beggars, because we know MCAs are the last line of defense. And I have told Secretary General Karanja of Association AMCA, Association of MCAs in this country, Mr. Speaker. And I am telling AMCA to bring a legislative proposal so that we amend the law and give AMCA a legal impetus, Mr. Speaker. Just like SOCAT, just like CUG, just like a CAF, County Assemblies Forum of the Speakers, Mr. Speaker. So even as we push the interest of MCAs, to whoever much is given, much is needed. So as we say, MCAs to be given Ward Development Fund, be given financial autonomy, be given better salaries and remuneration and allowances and all the support through SRC and government, Mr. Speaker, we also request of them to do their work without fear or favor from anybody without fearing the governor, without fearing anybody, because that is their work, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in fact, when I went to Vihiga, I realized the MCAs, let me not go through that story, Mr. Speaker, because I was horrified. I could not sleep, because I thought the roles have changed there. In fact, it's the governor who is explaining the role of MCAs, and the MCAs is explaining the role of governors more than. Mr. Speaker, finally on transferred function, I think we have agreed on this. Functions, cost must follow functions. For example, health. Under the fourth schedule, the issue of standards, Mr. Speaker, belongs to the national government. But did you see the other day when there was crisis of labor within the health sector? The COG went into hiding. They disappeared. Yet when we are discussing about resources, they say, health is devolved. But when there are labor crises in health sector, there is no national government can you handle. So they must have, Mr. Speaker, they must tell us the truth. If health is devolved, why are people missing drugs in hospital? Why are there labor crises? Mr. Speaker, intern's issue was resolved. Laboratory technicians are still on strike, negotiation. They are yet to be given recognition. Clinicals were on strike, Mr. Speaker. But when you get Council of Governors, they say health is devolution. But when you tell them, can you address crisis in health? They say national government is the one to address, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, on this transferred function, we request, and the President has shown goodwill, and I know the PS in charge of devolution assigned those transferred functions. But what we are saying, and I've heard Fununu, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy Senator Ed is here. When we selected the committee to go and negotiate in mediation, the House was that 415 billion was our last baseline. I'm surprised to see in social media and sections of media that they have agreed to 41 billion, Mr. Speaker. They have betrayed our trust as a House. And we are waiting for that report when it comes there. Because we had agreed that 415 billion should go to counties. Our mediation team and went and renegotiated downwards. Then we should have agreed with the National Assembly. There was no need. I know they can argue that they added 8 billion, but 8 billion is a small drop in an ocean of problems that we are facing in counties. How can we talk about costing of transfer of functions when they don't have resources? When I question my governor about performance, I am aware they have given enough resources, Mr. Speaker. So the mediation committee from Senate must give us a proper explanation as the House why they came down from 415 to 41 billion. And I remember Senator Muma was excited about the names that you were proposing. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to go beyond there, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank you. I saw you over the weekend supporting one of young writers. Mr. Speaker, can you add me 30 seconds?
Senator, your time is up.
I just wanted to say I support.
Close in 30 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, I want to say I support Mr. Speaker and say that this amendment is one of the best. Let us improve on it, and I wish Senator Amida Kibwana all the best.
Senator Okech Eddie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I didn't want to respond to Senator Cherargei's allegation of members of the mediation committee because I knew I was coming after him, and I didn't want him to enjoy any standing orders time because I think that it's important that Senator Cherargei understands that the senators who are sent to the mediation committee, most of them are actually experts in finance and experts in matters mediation as well, where we did a give and take situation. And Senator Cherargei must also take time to also read some of the conversations that go in between these two houses. For instance, Mr. Speaker, Senator Cherargei must understand that when the mediation committee did go to talk about the money that wanted to be added to counties, Number one, both the COG and the National Assembly was stuck in a figure of 391. That meant that in this financial year, the counties could only have been added about 6 billion, Mr. Speaker. And that was a hard figure that we could not be able, that people were not able to move. But the team from the Senate, where a member like me, Senator Eddie Okech, sits, were able to go and argue for 400 billion, which actually increased 9 billion above what the National Assembly had put. And Senator Chege must also know that of the 30 billion that we were proposing as a Senate, which we passed in this House as a Senate, four of those items were non-discretionary items, meaning they were items that are fixed, that you cannot be able to move in any way. But the bigger chunk of the 30 billion that we were proposing,
I want to draw your attention to the provisions of Standing Order number 99 on anticipating debate. The direction you are headed to is with regards to what that mediation committee is yet to table tomorrow. Please stick your arguments and your contribution to supporting the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 40 of 2023, within the relevance of it.
Chair, I wish you could have said that to the senator, because if you allow Senator Cherargei to throw aspersions on a wonderful mediation committee and use that entire time, Chair, I'm just responding, and then he gets away with it, and then when I'm trying to frame
Senator Eddie,
my conversation within the same context.
Senator Eddie, okay. Kindly confine your comments.
Chair, I get that, but I think it's unfair. It's really unfair to allow an honorable member to throw aspersions to a serious committee that did a good work to give counties money and get away with it. And when I'm trying to counter that, I'm confined to that. I think that is stifling debate. No, I don't have a problem with the ruling chair, but I think that extremely.
Proceed and.
Chair, do you want me to debate, or do you want me to go and sit down?
Senator Eddie. Because
you're not going to teach me how to debate, Chair. That is not being
Senator
fair.
Eddie.
Because
Senator Eddie, kindly resume. Take your seat.
You can't allow.
You're out of order. Senator Eddie, you're out of order. Senator Mungatana Danson Buya.
Bwana Spika, ningependa kuchukua nafasi hii kushukuru kwa kunipa nafasi na mimi nitoe maoni yangu kuhusu sheria hii ambayo tunaijadili mchana huu. Bwana Spika, sheria hii haswa inaongea namna ya vile magatuzi yetu yanaweza kuongeza pesa ambazo wanazichukua kutoka kwa sehemu zao za magatuzi. Bwana Spika, hapa tumesema katika hii sheria, na ni maoni hata ya kamati ya fedha, ya kwamba tubadilishe sheria ambayo iko, tuifanye iwe nzuri zaidi, kwa kusema kwamba kila gatuzi la Kenya liwe na system ama namna ya kuchukua hela bila kutumia wanadamu, ama a computerized system kwa lugha ya Kimombo. Bwana Spika, kila wakati ambapo wafanyikazi wa sheria wa serikali, iwe ni kwa county, iwe ni kwa serikali kuu, wakiitishwa kwamba tunabadilisha mambo iende kutoka kwa mfumo wa kuchukua hela kupitia mwanadamu iende kupitia mashine ambazo hazijui mwanadamu, watu huwa wanapinga sana. Na wanapinga kwa sababu zao, Bwana Spika. Wanapinga kwa sababu wanajua ya kwamba wakati ambapo unaondoa mwanadamu katika ile hali ya kuchukua hela ama kuchukua kodi ama kuchukua hela zozote za kiserikali, vile inavyofanyika ni kwamba shimo la kuchukua rushwa linakatwa ama linazibwa. So watu wengi ambao wamo serikalini ama wako kwa nafasi za serikali kubwa ama ndogo, ambao wako katika sehemu ya kuchukua hela, ikifika mahali ya kwamba tunataka kubadilisha namna ya kuchukua hizi pesa kutoka kwa wananchi, namna ya kuchukua hii pesa iwe badala ya kutumia mwanadamu kuandika risiti, tunataka hii iende kupitia kompyuta. Watu huwa hawapendi. Lakini Bwana Spika, sasa tunataka kuipitisha hii sheria. Hapa kwa Senate tumeona shida kubwa sana. Bwana Spika, ukiangalia kama gatuzi letu la Tana River, mpaka leo Bwana Spika, hawajaweka an automated system ya kuchukua pesa za kodi ya wananchi ambao inaenda kufanya kazi ya serikali ya gatuzi. Bwana Spika, hawa ambao wanafanya katika gatuzi letu Bwana Spika, wanakataa kabisa, na sababu moja ambao wanatumia, wanasema ati an automated system inakuwa bei ghali sana. Lakini Bwana Spika, ukiangalia pesa ambazo zinafujwa, pesa ambazo zinaibwa kupitia hii namna ya kuchukua pesa bila kutumia mashine, Bwana Spika, ni pesa nyingi sana katika kaunti ya Tana River. Kaunti ya Tana River Bwana Spika, leo hii ukitaka kulipa ada yoyote ya serikali ya kaunti, unaambiwa either utoe pesa cash, uandikiwe receipt, ama unaambiwa peleka hii pesa kwa akaunti ya benki, ama unapewa pay bill Bwana Spika. Sasa shida ni kwamba pay bill ambao unapewa hii kufanya hapa kwa mfano Tana North sub county, ukifika ni pengine unalipa kwa adili ya kulipia soko. Pay bill ambao utapewa ikiwa ni Tana River sub county inakuwa ni tofauti. Pay bill ambao unapewa kwa Tana Delta sub county inakuwa ni tofauti. Pesa zote hizo zikiwekwa kwa hizo pay bill Bwana Spika, tena zinachukuliwa na mwanadamu ambao inatakikana iwe ni director wa county revenue. Na Bwana Spika, angalia hivi inavyofanyika kule Tana River. Several ama namba kadha wa kadha zinatumika kwa pay bill. Alafu hizo namba zinaenda kuchukuliwa. Sasa ikifika mahali sasa hizo namba zikiwa zimefika kiwango fulani, zinakuwa controlled na mtu anaitwa director wa revenue katika kaunti yetu. Ati sasa yeye mwanadamu ndio anachukua hiyo pesa, anaipeleka kwa account, ile akaunti ambayo tunaita county revenue fund. Sasa hapa katikati ya kulipwa kwa zile pesa kwa pay bill, alafu mwanadamu kuzitoa zile pesa aziweke kwa account, Bwana Spika, kuna shimo kubwa hapa ambalo pesa za wananchi wa Tana River zinafujwa. Na Bwana Spika, hakuna namna ambayo zile hela ambazo zimelipwa na zile risiti zilizoandikwa ati zinaangaliwa, kukaguliwa kwamba hii ilikuwa ni sawasawa na zile pesa ambazo zimewekwa kwa akaunti. Hili shimo Bwana Spika limefanya watu ambao wanafanya idara ya revenue collection katika kaunti ya Tana River kuwa matajiri Bwana Spika, na haieleweki. Mtu ni tajiri, hana kampuni, hana shamba, hana factory, lakini amejenga manyumba, na wanahepa kujenga manyumba kule Tana River. Wanakuja Malindi, wanajenga Malindi, wanakuja Mombasa, wanajenga Mombasa, wanajificha Nairobi, wanajenga Nairobi. Bwana Spika, hii sheria ambayo tunataka kuipitisha katika bunge hili la Senate leo, tunataka kuficha wizi ambao unafanyika katika kaunti zetu. Na si Tana River peke yake Bwana Spika. Watu wengi sana wanajua ya kwamba watu wanaandikishwa risiti, lakini hizo risiti, pesa unayolipa haifiki kwa County Revenue Fund. Watu kama kwetu wanapewa pay bill, na hiyo pay bill hailinganishwi, hujui pale kije kitoka itaingia kwa account vile ulivyolipa ama la. Wewe umelipa na story yako inaisha hapo. Bwana Speaker, wizi wa mabavu unafanyika katika kaunti ya Tana River, na ni watu ambao wanatumia hizi systems, wanazitumia na wanaiba usiku na mchana. Bwana Speaker, katika kaunti ya Tana River, governor alieta kitu inaitwa Inuka Fund, na hiyo Inuka Fund ilikuwa ni pesa ambayo wananchi wanaenda kuomba ili wajiinue kibiashara. Alafu shida ikatokea kwamba kuregesha zile pesa, wananchi ambao wameomba zile pesa za deni, wengi wao hawaregeshi. Alafu kuna mtu ambaye ameanza sasa kusema tuwapatie pay bill numbers, iwe sawasawa na ile wanafanya huku kwa County Revenue Fund. Wanataka tena kuintroduce system ile ya kwamba ati wewe lipa kwa hii pay bill alafu utakuwa ushalipa, lakini hiyo pay bill haiendi kwa account ya County Revenue Fund, haiendi kwa account ya Inuka Fund. Na Bwana Speaker, vile wanataka kufanya tena kwa hii account ya Inuka Fund ni wizi tu wa kimabavu. Na Bwana Speaker, sio system ambayo inatumika kwa kaunti ya Tana River peke yake. Kaunti ya Tana River, Bwana Speaker, nimekwisha kuelezea, wananchi wanatoa pesa, wananchi wanapeleka pesa yao kwa hizi pay bill numbers, na wananchi wanaibiwa hizi pesa kwa sababu hizi pesa hazifiki kwa bank account, hazifiki kwa main County Revenue Fund. Na Bwana Speaker, mpaka leo ukiangalia zile pesa ambazo Tana River County inaandikishwa kuwa ati wamecollect ama wameweza kuchukua kutoka kwa wananchi, ile ambayo tunaita hapa kwa Senate On Source Revenue Fund, wananchi wa Tana River pesa yenu sio ile ambao wanatoka. Kawaida tunawekwa ni kama namba ya chini ama wapili wa mwisho, lakini wananchi wanatoa pesa. Watu wakifanya biashara ya ng'ombe wanatoa pesa, watu wakiuza madukani wanatoa pesa, watu wanakata maleseni ya mwaka wakifanya biashara zao Tana River, lakini hizi fedha hazifiki kwa ile County Revenue Fund kwa sababu hapa katikati kuna mashimo na kuna wizi ambao unafanyika. Na Bwana Speaker, kila saa watu wanasema ati tukitafuta machine ama automated system ati hiyo ni gali, lakini ukiangalia zile pesa ambazo zimeibiwa tangu kaunti ya Tana River ianze paka leo, hata afadhali tutumie mamilioni lakini tununue system, lakini hawataki kufanya hii. Ukiangalia magavana ambao wamekuwa hapo, hakuna hata mmoja ameisukuma hii system. Na swali tunataka kuuliza ni kwa nini hawataki kufanya automated system ya revenue collection? Ni kwa sababu Bwana Speaker, hapa katikati kuna mashimo, na haya mashimo wanajua ya kwamba hizi hela zinafaidi watu na hazifaidi watu wa Tana River, zinafaidi maofisa hapo. Ndio maana watu wengi sana wanapigania, wanataka kuwa revenue collection officers, wanataka hiyo kazi. Ni sawasawa na watu ambao wanapigania, mimi nataka kuwa polisi wa traffic kwa mfano. Bwana Speaker, ni kwa sababu kuna kitu ambacho watu wanafanya, na mpaka leo Bwana Speaker, hilo shimo halijafungwa, kwa sababu Bwana Speaker, kila county hapa Kenya imewachiwa kufanya wenyewe vile watatafuta namna ya kuchukua hela za kodi kwa county. Ukija Nairobi wako na system yao, Mombasa wako na system zao, ukienda county zingine wako na system zao. County kama yetu hawana system haswa. Ni vile ambavyo babu zetu walikuwa wanachukua Tana River County Council, ndio vile walikuwa wanaandika marisiti ya uongo, ndio system ambayo inatumika sahihi. Kwa hivyo Bwana Speaker, kuleta hii sheria ambayo imeletwa leo tuijadili, inaleta usawazishaji ya kwamba kaunti zote za Kenya sasa zitakuwa zinatakikana, sheria hii ikipita, kaunti zote hata hiyo Tana River wanatakikana sasa, tukipitisha hii sheria ya kwamba watatumia automated system za revenue collection, ili kila pesa ambayo tunaichukua kwa ajili ya kufanya kazi ya wananchi, hiyo pesa inaenda kwa ile county revenue fund, ambayo kwa sasa Bwana Spika haiko. Kwa hivyo mimi nasimama hapa kusema kwa niaba ya wananchi na watu wa Tana River ya kwamba tunataka sana hii sheria tuipitishe, kwa sababu hii sheria ndio italeta uwazi. Tutawajua wale waizi ni akina nani. Na Bwana Spika, mimi nakwambia leo hii tukiipitisha hii sheria, kuna watu hata wataresign kazi kule Tana River, kwa sababu wamekuwa wakiiba pesa kupitia hii system ambayo haifanyi kazi, system ya zamani, system ambayo haiko automated, system ambayo haina computer, ndio ambayo wamekuwa wakiishia, Bwana Spika. Na ni aibu, Bwana Spika, ya kwamba wewe unafanya kazi, uko na mshahara, lakini zile kidogo ambazo zinatoka kwa wananchi unazikula, na wananchi wanakosa maendeleo. Tana River inaandikwa kwamba ndio ya pili ya mwisho ama ya tatu ya mwisho kwa kuchukua on source revenue, Bwana Spika, na ilhali wananchi wanalipa. Kwa hivyo hii sheria, Bwana Spika, tunataka watu wote, masenators wote, tuipitishe tena haraka sana, ili hawa magavana ambao hawataki kufanya haki kwa wananchi, magavana ambao wanataka kuficha siri za pesa ambazo wanazichukua kutoka kwa wananchi, hawa magavana, Bwana Spika, waanikwe kwa watu wao wote, kwa Wakenya wote. Bwana Spika, wizi mkubwa unaendelea, na magavana wanajua, Bwana Spika, na wanajua katika ile county revenue fund kuna pesa ambazo tungekuwa tunapata haziingii, kwa sababu wao hawataki kununua hizi system za automated system, Bwana Spika. Na Bwana Spika, hii sheria tunapitisha leo inasema kwamba ripoti ya pesa ambazo zimechukuliwa ama zimekodiwa kutoka kwa wananchi lazima ziende kwa county assembly. Gatuzi na bunge la gatuzi wanapata report ya zile pesa ambazo zimechukuliwa, na tena Senate tunapata report ya ile pesa ambayo imechukuliwa. Tena serikali kuu wanapata, treasury wanapata report ya zile pesa ambazo zimechukuliwa. Bwana Spika, huu uwazi Bwana Spika, ni jambo muhimu sana. Tukiwa na uwazi ndio wizi unapungua. Bwana Spika, maovu yote yanafanyika kukiingia giza. Giza ikiingia, Bwana Spika, mambo machafu yanafanyika, Bwana Spika. Lakini ukiweka taa katika giza, watu wanaogopa kufanya ule udhalimu, ule uchafu ambao wao wanafanya, hasa kwa upande wa fedha. Bwana Spika, ikiwa hawa magavana, ikiwa mawaziri wa kaunti watakuwa wanashurutishwa kupitia kwa hii sheria, kwanza waweke automated system. Pili, waweze kuambiwa kila baada ya mwezi wanaweka ripoti kwamba ni pesa ngapi wamechukua, wizi utapungua. Manake itabidi sasa, kama unataka kuiba, lazima uhusishe wote waliochaguliwa katika hiyo bunge ya county assembly. Na mimi najua kuna watu ambao wameingia katika county assembly na wako na roho ya kusaidia wananchi. Hawakuja pale kuiba na kujitajirisha wenyewe. Bwana Spika, mimi nasema hii ni sheria nzuri na tunataka tuipitishe, haswa kwa kaunti zetu ambazo zinaongozwa na watu ambao hawana moyo wa kusaidia wananchi, hawana roho ya kusaidia wananchi. Bwana Spika, mimi nakwambia sahihi, unasikia mtu anapeleka ng'ombe zake, anapeleka kwa market, pesa zinachukuliwa, lakini market kama ile market ya Bangale, Bwana Spika, ambayo ndio market kubwa ambayo inatoa pesa nyingi katika Tana River, hakuna hata choo ambacho kimejengwa hapo, Bwana Spika. Na watu wanachukua pesa kila siku ya soko ya Garseni, hakuna hata facilities ambazo zinasaidia mwananchi wa kawaida kufanya kazi zake, na hizi pesa wananchi wanatoa. Mwisho wa mwaka unaandikwa pale Tana River ndio watatu ya mwisho, ya pili ya mwisho kwa kuchukua pesa ya on source revenue. Ni kwa sababu hakuna sheria ambayo inafaa. Hii ndio sheria ya kwanza ambayo tunajaribu kusawazisha kaunti zote, ili Bwana Spika, wizi huu ambao unaendelea utajiri huu wa udhalimu. Bwana Spika, ndio maana wengine wanakuwa wagonjwa. Unaona mtu ni tajiri lakini mara amesafiri, ameenda wapi, ni tajiri lakini na ametoka hata hizo nafasi walizokuwa nazo, lakini hakuna raha katika nyumba yake, kwa sababu pesa ambazo amesomeshia watoto wake ni pesa za wizi. Watoto nao wanatoka wanakuwa waizi, wengine wanapigwa bunduki. Watoto wanatoka wanakuwa drug addict, kwa sababu walisomeshwa na pesa za wizi. Hakuna baraka kwa hizo nyumba, Bwana Spika. Wao wenyewe wanakaa wanakufa na magonjwa ambayo ni mabaya, kwa sababu walikula pesa za wizi za Tana River, Bwana Spika, na walikula pesa za wizi, wasomesha watoto wao na pesa za wizi, Bwana Spika, pesa za udhalimu. Bwana Spika, mimi nasema hii sheria itasaidia sana kaunti zetu na italeta uwazi katika matumizi ya pesa. Ikiwa kila mwezi kuna ripoti ambayo inawekwa kwa county assembly, watajua kama kuna pesa zinaibiwa. Ikiwa kila mwezi kuna ripoti inakuja hapa Senate, tutajua kwamba kuna pesa zinaibiwa ama zinatumika namna gani. Bwana Spika, mimi nimefurahi sana kama kuna sheria moja ambayo tumeipitisha kwa bunge la Senate ambayo litasaidia wananchi na watajua ukweli wa mambo ambayo yanaendelea kule nyumbani. Bwana Spika, hii ni kati ya zile sheria ambazo tunapitisha kwa sasa. Na Bwana Spika, tunataka kusema na kuchukua nafasi hii katika hii Senate kuambia wale jamaa ambao wanafikiria kwa sababu wako kwa kaunti ambazo ziko mbali kwamba watafanya vile watakavyofanya, kwamba watahongana kwa vitengo vya kiserikali ati wasishikwe, kwamba watafanya mbinu washike wale majamaa wawapatie contract. Nataka kuambia ya kwamba hii Senate tunawaangalia na macho mawili, na katika kizungu tunasema hakuna limitation, yani there is no limitation for criminal liability. Yani ikiwa wewe umeiba, umefanya makosa, hata ukitoka hizo nafasi zako ambazo umeshikilia sahihi, hata kama ni miaka 10, tukichukua ule ushahidi na tukikuweka pale, wewe utakuwa ni mzee na unataka kwenda retire, na tutakushika na tutakufunga wakati huo. Tunataka kuambia wafanyikazi wa serikali, sisi hatutaki tena miaka ile ya kusema pande ile tutafanya vile tutakavyofanya, alafu sisi tutaishi kama wakubwa kwa sababu ya pesa. Wewe kama unataka kufanya kazi ya kutafuta pesa, kwa nini usiende kufungua factory? Kwa nini usiende kufanya biashara? Kwa nini unaingia kwa serikali? Mimi nakumbuka wakati wa Barack Obama, mawaziri wengine walisema sisi hatutaki kuandikwa in your second term kwa sababu tunataka kwenda kufanya biashara tupate pesa. Kama unafanya kwa serikali, kaa kama mtu wa serikali.
Senator Mugatana, your time is up. Senator Osotsi Godfrey Atieno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this very important opportunity to also make my contribution on this bill, the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Hamida Kibwana. And Mr. Speaker, I want to start by congratulating Senator Hamida for the excellent work she has done to bring this very, very important bill to this House. And Mr. Speaker, you know, Senator Hamida has demonstrated that she is a very committed and dedicated member of this Senate. Looking at the quality of the bills that she has brought in this House. Mr. Speaker, I remember Senator Hamida also sponsored a bill which was the Digital Health Bill, which came to the first reading. And at the point of the second reading, the government also brought their own bill, which was similar to her bill word by word. And this raises the issue, Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker, I would want you to listen to this. What is going to be done on the matter of plagiarism of bills, especially by the executive? When a private private member sponsors a bill, and then it comes in here, it is processed in the usual manner. It goes to first reading, the second reading, the government side brings a similar bill, word by word. What is Senate supposed to do on this matter? Mr. Speaker, I think at some point, this is a discussion we will need to have, because us on this side of the minority, we felt really bad that a member can spend his time, can research, do a bill, and then the members of the executive come and plagiarize that bill and present to the same house, and we are not able to protect the member who has invested his time and resources in processing a bill. Instead, we go to the executive side. It really, really demoralizes that member, Mr. Speaker. To go to the substance of this bill, Mr. Speaker, this bill is long overdue, because we have been trying to deal with the issue of management of on-source revenue in our counties. We have been trying to deal with the issue of automation of revenue systems in our county. And Mr. Speaker, one time in this house, I questioned why our county governments are not able to perform better in revenue collection, on-source revenue collection. Whereas in the old system, the defunct local authorities, they used to do better revenue-wise. They were able to collect enough money. And you know, that time, those local authorities were led by councillors, people who had low education, people who were just there in the villages. They did not have human resource like what we have in counties now. They did not have tools, but they were able to raise more money compared to the current scenario where we have counties which are better resourced, which have better tools, but they are collecting less money. They are not able to meet their targets. Where is the problem? I think this is a study that I want to encourage the Committee of Devolution to try and undertake and find out how was it possible for the defunct local authorities to do better revenue performance than the current county government. Mr. Speaker, there is also the issue of counties not being able to meet their revenue targets. They do budgets. Most of them exaggerate their on-source revenue targets, but they are not able to meet them. This is a serious problem. And this bill, Mr. Speaker, helps to a large extent to deal with this challenge of how to manage on-source revenue. So this bill is very timely, and I know discussions have been going on among stakeholders on how to deal with this problem. We have had the national policy to support enhancement of county on-source revenue that proposed that we have an integrated county revenue management system so that we can promote the revenue collection, transparency, accountability, and seal revenue leakages. But this discussion, Mr. Speaker, is a good discussion, but it has taken too long. So this bill is ahead of them by proposing that we have a legislation that will anchor their proposals into law. Mr. Speaker, we have also had a multi-agency task force on this issue of integrated county revenue management system so that we can have standardized revenue collection systems in our counties. Because what is happening, Mr. Speaker, is that we have diverse systems for revenue collection in different counties. And these systems, Mr. Speaker, talking as an IT expert, these systems are not type approved. We need to have a type approval process so that we have an entity that analyzes these systems and says that this system is suitable for revenue collection. Most of those systems don't meet the standards. The issue of agency fee that has been raised by Senator Cherege, it is true. Some of them have very exorbitant agency fees. And the question is, that money, where does it go to? If you ask someone to pay money, and then you say 20% of that money is an agency fee, whom does it go to? These are questions. And that is another avenue of stealing from our counties. We know some of these systems are timed not to operate at particular times. So that at particular times when they think the revenue is very high, the system goes down, they go back to manual. That is when the stealing is taking place. Mr. Speaker, I want to support this process of having an integrated county revenue management system so that we can have a uniformity, so that even this house can audit that system. But if we have diverse systems, in fact, in some counties, we have multiple revenue collection systems. Not just one, it is multiple. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill by Senator Hamida helps us to standardize the systems that we have in our counties to ensure that there is transparency, efficiency, and verifiability of these systems, so that we ensure that we are able to deal with security issues like fraud-related issues. But, Mr. Speaker, even as we do this, I want to encourage that counties must run these systems distinctively from the national government. So the proposal on requiring that the counties shall, in consultation with the National Treasurer and KRA, decide, I think we need to relax that. I maybe say maybe, because we also don't want, as a people who are supposed to help in implementation of Article 96, to be seen to be making our counties subsidiary to the national government. So I think that part, Senator Hamida, I would propose that we have an improvement on that. Secondly, county treasury is just an entity in counties. And this decision to come up with this system is a bigger decision that requires the input of the county executive. So we should not make it as a preserve of the county treasury. We need to say that county executive will be taking the lead in this, because county treasurer is a junior member of the county. He reports to the chief officer, finance, and also CEC, finance. Those are people who are supposed to make substantive decisions regarding financial matters in the county. So we can't keep them off this. We need to amend that so that we give this power to the county executive. Mr. Speaker, the requirement that reports be presented to the Senate and to the county assembly is very timely. But I have a problem with presenting the reports to the National Treasury, because again, that also makes counties subsidiary to the national government. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of the transfer of functions, funding, the costing of function, I think, Mr. Speaker, this is one of the areas that this Senate must take the lead. We have been taken in circles on this matter of transfer of functions. Even this current regime, the Kenya Kwanza regime, among the many promises they made to Kenyans, I remember one of the promises they made was that within 6 months of them coming to power, they will ensure 100% transfer of function. That has not happened, Mr. Speaker. We are now in the second year. That has not happened. There is no sign that that will happen. I remember last year, the IGRTC also said the same thing, that they are almost finalizing. They are 1 month away to transferring functions. to the counties. Mr. Speaker, they have not done that. It's just talk, talk, and talk, and talk. I think this is a conversation that we must take the lead as a Senate and push it, because we have so many functions which are in the national government which should actually be in the county government. And we are not just talking about transfer of functions. This bill is now giving us the legal mandate to say that functions are, money must follow functions. We are not just transferring functions. And I want to ask governors to be very careful on how they engage the national government on the matter of functions. Because nowadays, the national government has now devised another way of controlling devolved function. They have now come up with what we call counterpart funding, where they say we are going to give you 50% and give us 50%. A good example, Mr. Speaker, is the funding for CHPs. They say we are going to give you 50%, give us 50%. CHPs in most counties have not been paid their stipend. In my own county, for the last 3 months, they have not been paid because of the delay in releasing the 50% counterpart funding by the national government. Mr. Speaker, we have also seen this issue of industrial park, where they said counterpart funding of 50%. Most of the money has not been taken to counties. The projects that were launched are still lying there. They are going to become white elephant. So we want to ask our governors to try and avoid getting into agreements with the national government on the pretext of counterpart funding. Funds must follow all the devolved function. Even liquor. I have heard the deputy president say that they want to take over liquor licensing in counties. I want to tell the deputy president, you have better things to do. Leave counties to run their function. Liquor is a county function. That is where some counties get their revenues. So if you say you want to take it over because you want to run it better, and yet the national government has functions which they are not running better, who is going to run for them those functions which they are not running better? Mr. Speaker, the issue of ECD, we have a lot of functions, ECD related, which are still being run in the Ministry of Education. All those functions should be taken to counties, and funds follow those functions. So that if we want to tell our counties to be run better, we want to tell them to be run better, but when we know they have more resources to run those functions. Mr. Speaker, this is a very timely bill, and with the little panel beating that I've indicated, this is a bill that we should all support and make it better, and I'm sure the National Assembly will also fast-track this bill so that we have a uniform, integrated county revenue management system, and probably this will help us deal with the problem of mismanagement of on-source revenue, which also affects budget control and performance. Mr. Speaker, the leading query, audit query in most counties is the issue of budget control and performance, because counties are not able to meet the set targets of on-source revenue, and therefore they end up having budgets which are not working, and that becomes a query. So in a way, this bill will help in dealing with accountability issues, budget issues in our county, and make our counties run better. Mr. Speaker, as I finish, I also want to say I am very disappointed. I know my friend Eddie was a bit emotional on this issue, but I also want to join my friend Cheregei to say, I'm disappointed with the mediation committee. We all agreed, we passed a BPS here, we also made a decision, a majority decision, and agreed that we will stick with the 415 billion shillings.
You are wading towards where Senator Eddy went. Do not anticipate that debate on that particular report. We are yet to receive it. We will receive it tomorrow. You will get an opportunity to castigate, if you want, the committee on mediation on what they've done. So do not anticipate that debate.
Well guided, Mr. Speaker. I was just saying that because, you know, we are talking about revenue, and there are two levels of revenue, the shareable revenue and the on-source revenue. So, and you know, the shareable revenue may also affect the on-source revenue, because county governments may want to invest in these systems, and they need money. So anyway, we will leave that debate for another day. Just to say, this is a wonderful bill, and I fully support it, and I want to encourage the members of this House to support it and fast-track it to become law with a few amendments that have been proposed by the Finance Committee, and they are going to be proposed by the members in this House. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Thank you, Senator Osotsi. Senator Muma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to this bill. I rise to support the bill. Mr. Speaker, I have said here before that as we go into the 13th year after devolution, I think the Senate should work harder to strengthen the intergovernmental relations between the two levels of government in order for devolution to perform well. And most of the laws that we should bring should be laws that will strengthen that intergovernmental consultation and cooperation to ensure that the two levels of government recognize that they don't have separate citizens that they are serving, that they serve the same citizens, and therefore the 13 years of negative competition that has been there between the two levels needs now to tone down, and we need to get to a level where they assist us to move devolution as is envisaged in the Constitution of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, the issue that has been brought in this bill is absolutely important, and I support that we are at that level when we need to support or to put in place legal framework to ensure that county governments do better in terms of on-source revenue, collection, and accountability for those monies. Mr. Speaker, the proposed clause 160A speaks to principles that exist in the Constitution. The principle of transparency, efficiency, effectiveness, and a verifiable system, a system that is simple, a system that is secure, that should prevent any fraud or losses, and one, very important, that promotes the distinctiveness of the national government and the county government. Mr. Speaker, that is what any law that we are bringing in place that strengthens intergovernmental relations should enable us to do, to strengthen systems while delivering on devolution as provided for in the Constitution. So I would want to say that the principles that we are reaffirming in this bill are principles that already exist in the Constitution. And why are we reaffirming? Is because for the 13 years, those principles have not been properly implemented. And Mr. Speaker, not just at the county level, also at the national level. Mr. Speaker, you will recall just a few weeks back, we had the report from the Auditor General that is questioning a whopping 15.5 billion transacted through the e-citizen. So it's not as if national government and the e-citizen is necessarily foolproof. So what we are saying is this, that we need to put in place systems at the national government and at the county governments that will ensure Kenyans are not defrauded of their monies, that will ensure full accountability, whether it is national government or county government. So I wanted to disabuse the few comments made by those who believe automation means safety. Because, as the Auditor General has demonstrated recently, the e-citizen collection system that we have has issues. In fact, it says the controls are weak, it has the potential to be compromised, and it is heavily reliant on vendors. And we have been told, as Senator Cherarkei said, we are allowing the so-called digitization and automation to be squarely in the hands of people who've decided to reap money from Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, if we are paying taxes just for 20% of that to be given to one businessman because they gave us a system, I think we've lost it. And we need to revisit those issues. So even as we are thinking an integrated system, good sounding word, we need to ask ourselves, integrated means what? And I will go back to those principles that are being put in this bill to say whether national government, whether county government, to what extent are we putting in place a system that will ensure every contribution by a citizen, whether in a market or whether to the national government, that that money will go where it is supposed to go, and that money will contribute to the service delivery of this nation. So I want us to be careful not to send the message that accountability is required at the counties, but there's no accountability required at the national government. So we need to move in that level. Mr. Speaker, as we do so, I also want to request, Senator Hamida, that you might want to relook at a few of those clauses. When you look at 191F, 191F is talking about funding that is relating to transferred function. And in 191F1, you suggest that where the national government has transferred a function to a county government, pursuant to Article 187 of the Constitution, the Cabinet Secretary shall determine the cost of the transferred function. But in a similar clause, in 191G4, you say that a national government entity to which a county government has been transferred shall be, there is a place where the function is being transferred by the county government to the national government, you suggest that the cost shall be determined by national government and the county government. Senator Hamida, I hope I can persuade you that to determine that cost takes the two. You cannot make it the business of only national government to decide. Because if national government were to decide we are transferring our security function momentarily at the village to county X, and we think it will cost so much, and it turns out to be only half the cost, you are going to cause an issue. So that decision of determining cost must be a consultative process that should involve both the national government and the county government. And you might want to do this through the relevant COG committee. So I would want to urge that you relook at that and see how to move that issue. Mr. Speaker, even as we are thinking through this, I believe if this law were to be passed as is, it does not necessarily bring a new accountability requirement that is not in the Constitution. We need to ask ourselves, Why do we have governments, both national and county, that defy the Constitution, that defy the law? What other laws can we bring to complement this law that can support or can ensure that we achieve what we hope to achieve with this law? Mr. Speaker, I would therefore urge Senator Hamida, even as you do this law, you might want to speak to Senator Chute, who is trying to strengthen, to bring a bill to strengthen the role of controller of budget, so that we are able, beyond the controller of budget, just clearing the appropriation or the requisition by county governments. We need to give the controller of budget the powers to be able to go further and find out, once those monies have been requisitioned, are they going to what they're supposed to? Today we sat in the Committee on Devolution, and one of the things we found out that has been discovered, that counties are requisitioning money on pending bills that are expected to go, they submit papers that indicate that this money is going to be paid to X, but in actual fact, they're paying that money to Y. We were told how some counties have up to 300, excuse me, commercial bank accounts that are illegal. So if we just put in general and use the generality of the principles of transparency, the principles of accountability, but do not visit the bits that actually facilitate fraud, we will not get far. So I would urge that Senator Hamida also finds a way in which we can complement the law that we are running, so that the laws of other oversight bodies like controller of budget are also strengthened to ensure that if we have a controller of budget with integrity like the one we have currently, we will be able to call out the counties that are actually pilfering money through other means. Mr. Speaker, I also think the National Treasury should also start being held accountable and responsible on the expenditure by national government. Mr. Speaker, we rarely get to know a report of how much national government in development is supposed to deploy to the different counties. And I have brought a question, I don't know whether the CS will come tomorrow, but the laws we make seem to keep the Treasury above reproach, as though the Treasury does not have accountability responsibilities. Whereas the Treasury works or keeps the monies for the nation, the Treasury is also a national government entity, and we need to hold them accountable for the budgets that go to the National Assembly, to the national government. So I believe, even as we are strengthening the counties, it will help if we equally strengthen the national government, so that we know our counties are the recipients of the development budgets of national government. So we have a responsibility as the Senate to also hold the National Treasury accountable on the budgets that national government receives on development for the nation. So I would be asking that as we are speaking accountability, let us not make it look as if the Treasury is good, the Treasury knows it all, and the Treasury is fine. So we need to strengthen both levels in order to deal with this issue. Mr. Speaker, I am happy that we will be requiring quarterly reports to come to the Senate, so that every so often, and I suggest that those reports, every so often, the Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations should every so often report on how counties are performing on different issues in relation to revenue collection, revenue expenditure, revoting of monies not spent in a financial year, so that we are able to call out and the people of Kenya are able to know, this is how my county is performing on this particular issue, and they need to do better or they are doing well. So, Mr. Speaker, with those proposals, I support this law and acknowledge that, yes, we need to strengthen the laws relating to accountability to ensure that all goes well. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I was going to forget a very important issue. Senator Amida, I hope you could relook at this. In Article 191G4, you have provided that then a national government entity to which a county government function has been transferred shall submit a quarterly report to the Senate and respective county assembly. Now, functions can only be given to national government or county government. They are not given to a national government entity. So it's only national government that can take responsibility for a function that it has taken. So I think you will need to revise that so that we don't give the impression that it is possible for a county government to transfer, for instance, a function to a parastatal. That is not provided for in our constitution. Functions belong to national government and county government. They don't belong to national government entities. So I would suggest you correct that so that it is about functions can only go to the governments, they don't go to government entities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Muma. Call upon Senator Paris Topiko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I really don't know how to execute in my submissions in 4 minutes or so, Mr. Speaker, but let me say I support Mr.